Hello everyone, it's Kathy and welcome back to my YouTube channel and back into my craft room. It is the day after Thanksgiving. Of course, you'll be seeing this on Saturday, but I hope everyone had a wonderful and beautiful Thanksgiving. I hope you were able to celebrate with friends and family because that's what the holidays are all about. So being able to spend some time with family and enjoy food and laughter and all that the holidays bring. So with all that being said, I want to get started on a project. This has kind of been in my head. I did see something similar to this on Pinterest, but I didn't click on to save it, and that was my mistake. So I'm kind of going rogue with it, and I'm trying to figure out. I am using the Boughs of Holly Designer Series paper, and I chose these two sheets. And all I did is I cut strips off of it. I cut 3 strips at 3/4 of an inch off of my red piece, and then we're going to call this one the green piece because it has more green in it. But I have 3 strips of each color. Now if we need to cut some more, we can cut as we go, but I started off with 3 3/4 inch strips. So that for you that are new with measuring, that's 3/4 of an inch. So, and these are 12 inches long because this paper is 12 by 12. I have a piece of my real red because that is such a pretty color. We're going to cut our card base out of this, and we're going to put our 11-inch piece at the top of our scoreboard, and we're going to measure that to half of 11 would be 5.5. So I'm going to cut this down at 5.5. So we're basically just slicing that piece in half. This gives us 2 A2 size cards. So I'm going to lay one piece over, and I'm going to put this other piece in, and I'm going to bring my blades down because I want to just use my score blade, and I'm going to score this at 4 1/4. So I go over this each time I do a video because if you're new to card making, you would not know where to go or where to start. So for all of you seasoned card makers, bear with me because remember back in the day when you were new at this and how you would flip on a video to watch, and sometimes the instructions would be a little bit over your head. Well, I never want my videos to be over anyone's head. So all I'm doing is I'm using a bone folder, and I'm actually burnishing this down to give me a nice crease. So this is our standard A2 size card. Now I need to decide if I want it to be landscape or portrait. Landscape would be the wide view, and portrait would be the more narrow view. So I think I'm going to go with it being portrait. And I have cut a piece of garden green for a mat, and this piece measures 4 inches by 5 1/4, and you can see it's going to mat on here absolutely beautiful. But before we do that, we need to use our strips. So I'm going to bring in my silicone craft sheet. This one's a little bit dirty, but that's okay, you can still use it. I need to take these to the sink and wash them. This one's a little bit, well, I say it's a little bit better, and it's really not. But you know, some of this glue can wipe right off. You can usually just pull it off with your fingers because nothing sticks to these, and they wash up beautifully in the sink with just some warm soapy water. So I'm going to lay this silicone craft sheet down, and I'm going to lay my piece of cardstock on top of it. And the reason I want to do that is I want to decide, I think I want this piece to go down my middle just like that. So I'm going to move this over, and I am going to run adhesive. Let's do the adhesive on our card itself. I think that might be easier. And I'm going to change my mind. I'm not going to use Stampin' Seal. I'm going to use my liquid glue. So I'm going to go from this corner all the way up to that corner. And then I'm going to put another little bit in right there and here. Just like that. And then I'm going to glue this piece down. And I'm going to let just a tiny bit hang off because we can trim that. But I just want to make sure I get that in the middle. And then I'm just going to press it. And all I'm going to do down on this end is I'm going to use my snips, and I'm just going to snip that off about like that. And now I want to take a red piece and I want to bring it in, but I want to leave a little peak of that green in between. So I'm going to eyeball about 1/4 of an inch. Let me bring y'all in a little closer. About like that. I'm going to leave about 1/4 of an inch, and you don't have to measure that. You can kind of just eyeball it, and I think that that would be fine to do it that way. Now this piece I don't have to bring all the way up, so I'm going to come to about there, get it in about where I want it, and now I can come down to this end and go ahead and cut it. So this way I can put my glue just on the back of this piece. This will make it a little easier. And using the liquid glue gives you that wiggle room to be able to line this up just exactly where you want it. So I'm trying to make sure I'm leaving just that little bit of green peeking through. I think that looks really pretty. Now I'm going to take this other piece that we had left over from this piece, and I want to bring it in to about here. Again, we can cut this piece off, so I'm going to snip that off about there. Run my liquid glue on the back. And after I put this piece on, I'm going to go off camera and finish laying these pieces out, and then when we come back we'll see exactly it is, and then I'll show you how to trim it. So I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back, and as you can see I have all of my pieces glued down. Now this piece I didn't even cut it, and I probably didn't glue it quite far enough, so I'm just going to put a little glue under there. And that's what you want to do now, is check and make sure that your pieces are adhered down, you know, under here, really good like you want them. And once you've got them glued down where they're like they need to be, you're going to turn this over, and you see this longer piece. I'm just going to cut it first so we don't have a lot of waste there. So I'm going to come in about like that and just whack that one off. Now for this I like to use a longer pair of scissors. You can use your snips, but I think I get a better and more even cut if I just come in and I want to cut right up to the edge of that cardstock, and you can hear it click as it cuts off each one of those pieces, just like that. And we're going to turn it, and we're going to do the same thing across the top or the bottom, whichever we decide that to be, and back up the other side. And y'all see me make the strip cards where I use scraps. This is a little bit different because we're actually using, we're choosing a designer series paper, so it's not so much of a Mod Podge. It's really keeping everything very uniformed. And look how pretty that is. I love that. Isn't that gorgeous? So I'm going to take this and just dump it into my trash can. Whatever will dump off of it, and I definitely got to go clean those. Now as you can see, I had 2 strips left over. I wasn't sure when I started this, but in the instructions it's going to say cut 2 strips of each, because you can actually do this with 2 and still have this left over. So, and we might use some of that on the inside or maybe on an envelope. Isn't that gorgeous? I think that turned out absolutely stunning. I love the colors. I love the little peak of green in between, and I think that's beautiful. Now I have a red card base that we cut just a little bit ago, and I'm going to bring that over, and I actually think I want a little gold around it. So I'm going to grab a piece of gold foil. These are the brushed metallics, and they are absolutely stunning. And I'm going to take one of these pieces out, and I'm going to cut a a mat that's going to be, now remember, we can always trim this one down if we want to, and I may do that. I may trim this one down to 3. Yeah, let's do it that way. A little bit of trimming here. I'm kind of making this on the fly, so y'all are I'm kind of creating along with you. So I'm going to take this piece, and I know I want it to be 3 3/4 instead of 4. So I'm going to take 1/8 of an inch off on this side. Oops, wrong blade. and then I'm going to turn it and take 1/8 of an inch off on the other side. That'll give me that 1/4 inch, so I can line this up directly at the 3 3/4. Oh, that's not quite right. Oh, 3 3/4. I had it at 3 1/2. So I can line that up right here at 3 3/4, and then I can slice this side off. And that way we're taking the same amount off of each side. Our card's not going to look wonky this way. So now we can cut this piece of gold at 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm going to cut this down to 4 and 5 1/4. Now, if you are one of those people that don't like to waste your gold foil, you can very easily here take this piece, and you can do it on your trimmer. Let me put my trimmer back over here. You can cut this on your trimmer, or you can use your rectangles. Let's pull out a pretty rectangle. And you know, I'm always needing scalloped pieces, so let's do the scallop. It's not going to show on the card, and this is going to give me a beautiful little piece of gold scallop to use on another card. This is the way we save our cardstock. So I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Let me zoom y'all out like that. Get those scissors out from behind there. I don't know if your craft desk is like mine, but it is always a tight fit for anything that I'm doing because I have so much on here. But it's the way I like to craft. I like to have everything handy. So I'm going to lay this down, and I don't know if you are seeing that, but I'm laying this down, and I'm going to tape this because I want to make sure I'm getting that border edge that I need. So I'm going to use a little piece of my Post-it flags just to hold this in place, and then I'm going to turn it to an angle, because anytime you're cutting on a flat edge, if you angle it, it won't put as much stress on your machine, and it will go through like a breeze. Look at that. No pop, no crack, just very easy. So I'm going to move my machine out of my way. We'll need it again in a minute, but we'll grab it when we need it. Let's take this off, and look what it leaves us. Now I've got this beautiful gold piece already ready for another card, and that way I'm not wasting that entire piece of cardstock, because the only thing I'm going to need is the outer edge of that to show on my card. And I love when I can share with you ways that you can save your cardstock. You could do the same thing if you were working with any other type of cardstock, but we all know that our foils are a little more expensive, and I like to get more bang for my buck out of those. So let's bring our card base back over and our mat, and see what I mean about how this is. Oh, we got to cut the top down. I didn't cut the top off and the bottom, so let's do that real quick. We know that it's 3 3/4, so now it needs to be by 5, and we have 5 1/4, so I'm going to take about 1/8 of an inch off at the top, and then I'm just going to turn it, and I will bring it right to 5. It doesn't look like we're going to get too much off at the bottom, just a tiny smidgen, and that's good. Okay. So now we're ready to go ahead and glue this down to here. So I'm going to use liquid glue because I want to be able to have some wiggle room. Now, gold foil does not like glue, as you know, if you've worked with foil. So I'm going to be very careful in putting my glue around this frame. I don't want it to ooze out, but I do want it to hold it down. So I'm going to bring that now to my card base and get my borders all nice and even, and then I'm just going to press it. Now we've got that done. Let me zoom you back in, about like that. Now we have this piece. Now we could do one of two things. We could easily pop this up on dimensionals, which would be pretty, but I don't think I'm going to. I want to put it flat down to my card. I am going to use Stampin' Seal on this one, and the reason for that is because I don't want any adhesive, the liquid glue, to get on my gold, and I can use my Stampin' Seal and not worry about that. Now you can use tear and tape. You can use, if you're really good with your liquid glue, by all means use your liquid glue. Now I have a little bit of fraying right there, but I think it's going to be okay. And I'm going to bring my Stampin' Seal just along the edges, a little bit across the top, down the side, and across the bottom. A little bit in the middle. Now I'm going to very strategically, that wasn't very strategic, was it? I want to make sure it's going in the direction I want it. And then I'm going to even it up at the top and the sides and the bottom. Press it, press it, press it. And then that is on there, and it's beautiful. Isn't that gorgeous? I think that gold just adds an element of beauty to this entire card. So we're going to do another little frame that's going to hold our sentiment, but I want something else behind it. So I think I'm going to cut another little piece of gold, and I want it to frame this piece. So I want it to be about the size of this, about like that. So what I'm going to do is, because I know I'm going to do this in red, I think I'm going to do it in red. I might do it in green. I'm indecisive. Yeah, maybe we'll do it in green. But I want this piece to be about like that. So I'm going to take my, you can use any type of stylus you have, but just make yourself a little bit of a tick mark so you know where to cut. So I'm going to cut that down on that side. And see, I can see that little bit of a tick mark right there. I don't know if you're seeing it. There we go. And I know that I can put that right into my track, and I'm going to cut that down to about there. Then I'm going to put this in. I'm going to lay this back on it. This is always a good way to make sure that you're cutting it the size you want it. Just use your piece, lay it on it, and I think we can cut that right about there. And this should work beautifully. And I think it will. So now what I'm going to do is I want to put this piece on here and run it through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And I think for this one we can probably use the little one. It fits much better on the desk and you can see what's going on. So I'm going to grab my 1 and 2 plate. Let's go ahead and lay this in here. I am going to cut that at an angle just a tiny bit. Put that plate on, and let me get it to this vantage point, and then I can push that through. Something like that. And now we have this beautiful little label. Isn't that gorgeous? I love, love, love. That comes from the Labels Aglow, and it goes with the Brightest Glow stamp set. And that is a bundle that's in our mini catalog. Now, that is probably on a retired list, so that one may be on the retired list where you can get it at a savings. I didn't look before I started the video. I really should have. Now I want this to go down directly on top of that, something like that, but I want something decorative on the edges of this. So I am going to take let's see. How about, this is our new, this is in the mini catalog as well, the Very Best Trio Punch. And I'm going to use this little, the photo corner. And I'm just going to cut this out like this, just to give it a little decorative edge on all four corners. And then when we lay this on, look how pretty that looks like it frames it. Isn't that gorgeous? And we did nothing but cut our little corners using our little trio punch. All right, so the next thing I want to do before I put this together is I want to stamp a Christmas greeting on the front of this. And the Hope and Peace has been my go-to greetings this Christmas. I love the Merry Christmas in this one, and I think that's all I'm going to put on the front of this. It's just a Merry Christmas. And we're going to do this with, since we're going to heat emboss it in gold, we're going to use our Versamark ink. And I'm going to stamp it first, but you know what we got to do, and I always forget, but I didn't forget this time. We're going to use our powder tool. Once I get that on there, we're going to grab our powder tool because I want to make sure that my embossing powder doesn't stick anywhere except where my ink goes. So we're going to take out all the static and all of the little fingerprints that might already be on here. If I have lotion on my hands and I touch that piece, or maybe even glue, and it picks it up, then it will cause that embossing powder to stick where I don't want it. So powdering it first before you ink it really does make a difference. So right in the middle, I'm going to stamp my Merry Christmas, just like that. Oh, that's beautiful. If you can see it, then that's a good thing, and I can definitely see it in the camera. And look at that. So I'm going to take out my embossing folder, my embossing powders, and they come in, the metallics come in 3 colors, gold, silver, and bronze. And I am going to use my gold, not bronze, I'm sorry, copper. I realized that when I opened the drawer, and I keep mine in these little containers because I do a lot of embossing with my channel. But when you get yours, they'll be in a little jar, and you use a piece of paper, or if you get our essential tools, you'll get the little tray that you can use this in, and then put your embossing powder right back in to your container. So that is on there, and it looks beautiful. So if you have not heat embossed before, it's a simple process. You shouldn't be intimidated. It is a little bit of an investment because you do need a heat tool and a blow dryer. I know some people think, well, why can't I use my blow dryer? It doesn't get hot enough. Your blow dryer will not get hot enough. And this is the Stampin' Up! Heat tool. And we have 2 settings on here, 1 and 2. You always emboss on setting 2. And if you're needing to dry paper, like dry an ink or watercolor or whatever, you can use 1 for that. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it on because I want it to heat up just a minute before I heat set. So I'm going to just let it heat up a little bit over to the side, and I'm going to hold this at an angle because I want y'all to see the magic when it happens. Now I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to start in little small circles. And I always like to heat underneath. It's just my thing. I think when you heat it underneath, it makes it go faster on the top. And there it goes. It's turning that beautiful gold. And it's so pretty heat embossed. I'm going to do it again on the back just to help my paper lay back down. And we are done. Now that was an easy process. And look how elegant. And using the gold on our card, I think that now I did get a little smidgen of embossing powder right there. But you know what? It's okay. We'll camouflage that with a gem. So what I'm going to do now is I want this to pop up on here. So I am going to turn this over, and I'm going to use some Stampin' Dimensionals, and I'm going to put one on each corner. And then probably just one in the middle. Something like that. And pull these off. Like that. Now this piece seems like it's wanting to curl up, but remember we're gonna stick this down flat, so it should be okay. So I'm gonna bring this piece over, and I want to sit this on about like that. Yep, that looks much better. Then I'll press it down, and now on the back I'm gonna put just regular glue, and we're gonna glue this flat down to our card. And you can decide if you want it to go up to the top or in the middle or down in the bottom. I am going to go right directly in the middle. Give it a good press. I'm going to come in on the inside and press it from that side just to make sure that's adhering really well. Now we need to work on our inside. Now my inside, I think I want to do a green matte and then white, because I want to stamp our greeting on the inside. You know, I could do it in gold. Why not? I think that'd be pretty, and it will bring everything together. So we're going to do a little bit more heat embossing. Like I said, I was creating this card on the fly with you, so we're going to cut our mat to 4 by 5 1/4. Just like that. And now we're going to decide which sentiment we're going to use. And I love that peace on earth, goodwill to all. I used Emmanuel, God with us, and the weary world rejoices quite a bit. I like tidings of comfort and joy. This is such a beautiful stamp set to use with your Christmas cards. So, oh, so pretty. Are y'all loving this card? Isn't it festive? I love it. Okay, Merry Christmas, tidings of comfort and joy. I think that's the one I'm going to use. So I'm going to peel this one out, and I'm going to grab my stamp block. Let's go ahead and load this up. And we're going to need to use our little powder tool again, because we're going to emboss this in gold as well. And embossing in gold, I think, just really gives your cards a bit of elegance that you don't normally get. So I'm going to powder that really good and smooth it out. And one of these little powder tools just will last forever. But that essential kit comes with the tweezers, the embossing buddy, a little brush to brush away, and it also comes with a tray. And your tray looks like this. Now I'm using mine for a different purpose. I've got some rubber bands on it, and I'm using it to hold my ink pads when I'm mass producing. And the reason I'm not using it for the intent is because I'm keeping my embossing powders in the big trays. But if I wasn't, I would definitely use this. And your embossing powders, you could put them in, you can tap them down to the bottom, and then you can open this little cap and put it back over top of your little jar and tap everything in. This is a great set of tools to have. So you might want to go and pick that up. I believe it is on the returning list that will be in our mini catalog. I'm hoping they're going to bring that back into our annual catalog, but I don't know that yet. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and bring out my Versamark ink again. And I'm going to ink this stamp up. Such a pretty stamp. I love the font. And then I'm going to stamp right up to top center. Not directly in the center, but top center. Right about there. And I'm going to hold that just for a minute and let that ink transfer to the cardstock. Beautiful. I love that. Make sure that you cover up your inks before you do your heat embossing. Bring out my gold again. And I'm going to pick this up. I'm going to use my tweezers like that. And then I'm going to sprinkle this gold all over this stamped image. Oh, it's so pretty. And I always like to do it twice just to make sure that I'm getting my embossing powder everywhere it needs to be. And then I like to tap it just to get rid of any excess. And I'm looking to see if I see any excess on this one, and I don't. So let's go ahead and put our lid back on this. And I'm going to use my little brush and just brush away any of this excess. I'm going to actually brush it back into my container because I don't like to waste not one little crumb of that. So right back into my container. And let's take this over. Now my heat tool's already warm from the first time, so I shouldn't have to warm it up too very long. So we should be able to come in here and start embossing right away. And there it goes. It's starting to change, and I love it. So pretty. Is that not gorgeous? So now this is ready to go into our card, just like this. And I'm going to use my Stampin' Seal. Something like that. And then I'm going to eyeball center. Usually if I get my top edge nice and straight, everything else will kind of fall with it. So that's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to, nope, that's not quite it. So let's come up. You do have a minute. Looks like I need a little bit of glue under the edge of this. So I'm going to take my glue bottle and I'm just going to run a tiny bit of glue, whoops, right there on that edge so that it will lay down. And if you need, I probably should have just used liquid glue under here to start with. But a little bit of glue, and that will make everything lay down. And what an elegant card that is. Look how beautiful that is. The gold on the green, and then you got the gold on the green out here. It is just beautiful. Let me know in the comments if you like this card. This is a quick and easy card to make. I thought it came together beautifully, and I thought that this will be a quick card if you were in the need for a quick but yet very elegant and a statement card that you could throw together really quick. So leave me a comment, let me know what you think, and all of the products will be listed in the description below that I used to make this card. So God bless and keep you, and like I said earlier in the video, I hope everyone had a very happy Thanksgiving. So now we're off to Christmas. I'm going to make Christmas cards probably for about 2 more weeks, and then it will be too late for you to order Christmas supplies. So then we will start moving into something a little bit different. Maybe some spring cards. Who's ready for spring? I always am after Christmas, so after the new year. So anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. As I always say in closing, let everything that you do and say bring glory to our Father in heaven. He is worthy. He is so worthy of our praise, our honor, our love, our life. So until we craft again, God bless and keep you. Bye-bye.